It's a churn out there which doesn't seem to be stopping for India's real estate sector. There's a shock to the industry one day with new accounting norms, and the next day it's a hug with increased limits for housing loans under the priority sector lending. There's an interest rate hike which is then countered by increase in carpet area of homes eligible for a loan subsidy. Today in Urban Reality, let's analyze the sum game of these moves and get the answer to one big question. How much will the 6 lakh plus inventory of under construction homes move in this tug of war? And what will be the cost of it all on the industry? I'm Manisha Natarajan, and joining me on the debate are Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani, co-founder and MD of Hiranandani Group. We also have with us Amit Bhagat, CEO and MD of ASK Property Investment Advisor, Anuj Puri, Chairman, ANAROCK Property Consultants, and we'll also be joined by Vinay Shah, MD CEO, LIC Housing Finance. Let me first start with the latest, which is the PMAY MIG 1 and 2 carpet areas being revised to 160 and 200 square meters. Mr. Hiranandani, the industry seems to be celebrating this big move and saying that it will move demand. Are you sure it will, and where?
We have to understand that the government has been coming in for this sector in terms of affordable housing for a long period of time, and that was limited to 30 and 60 square meters. But that eliminated more than 50% of the population, and hence earlier the scheme had been brought about to bring about the effect for 120 to 150 square meters in order that the interest subvention benefit would also accrue to them. Now, having realized that India is much bigger than just Mumbai and Delhi and such cities, all the smaller towns and other people were not getting the benefit because people do move into larger tenements because the prices in those areas are smaller, and the benefits would accrue beneficially to a lot of people. Hence, this modification which was demanded has come. This will benefit in a huge way to smaller towns and cities in India, as well as the peripheral areas of cities, like the NCR region will benefit, Mumbai metropolitan region will benefit, peripheral of Bangalore will benefit, other cities will benefit. So the benefits have definitely increased. The idea is to bring more consumers into the beneficial part of the scheme and make them more affordable. And remember one thing, interest rate will increase by 0.25%. But interest subvention for this sector will go up by 3 or 4%. So the huge benefit in terms of this announcement.
Okay. Anuj, are you that gung-ho? Because if I'm looking at the math and saying, look, 150 square meter, which is 1500 plus square feet housing unit, wasn't a small number. This is the carpet area that we're talking about. If you look at the super area, which is pretty much about 2000 square feet of a home, if that did not move the needle, why are we celebrating this 200 square meters, or that's almost 2100 square feet?
So there are two parts to it. One with Niranjan Bhai very articulately elaborated that this will really be beneficial for tier 3, tier 4 cities and perhaps the peripheral areas of tier 1 and tier 2 cities. The second, when you started the show, Manisha, you said is this going to have an impact on the unsold inventory? We have, as you rightly said, is about 600,000 units of completed unsold inventory. Would this scheme start to move that forward? That I don't think so. And the reason I say that is that it's going to be marginally beneficial to that is because this large unsold inventory is actually in tier 1 towns, tier 1 cities, and this unsold inventory is below the 2100 square feet anyway. So the benefit is going to be for the smaller tier 3, tier 4 towns going forward. Retrospectively, the unsold inventory, which is in tier 1, largely tier 1 cities, was anyway lesser than 2100 square feet, is not really going to benefit.
Amit, would you agree with that? Let's not celebrate very quickly, and this is probably and perhaps going to get developers to launch more units or move towards tier 2 and tier 3 cities rather than clearing up the existing 6 lakh units?
So I think the focus is the first time home buyer. You look at this amendment along with the monetary policy update, where the loan to value up to 75% for loans above 75 lakhs, the risk weight has been reduced from 75 to 50. So the government focus is first time home buyer on the mid segment housing. It will benefit only the first time home buyer. Now how do we excite the first time home buyer to buy? Because buyers are looking for value for money. And that is the only disconnect where we have not been able to find an answer so far. This is only incentivizing the first time home buyer.
Okay.
But ultimately the first time home buyer has to come forward and start buying. And that is not a trick. This is not only going to be a trigger point. We need economic growth and confidence, sentiment upbeat for the first time home buyer to come and start buying.
Okay, Mr. Hiranandani, I'm also very surprised, you know, there was this small technical change which the housing ministry could have easily made. Even amongst the first time home buyers that Amit Bhagat is speaking about, there are lots of home buyers who become ineligible for the PMAY MIG scheme simply because they either have a joint property back in their village, etc., etc. So should the industry have pushed for that clause to be removed and you know, bring in a larger number of people who can actually afford to even buy their second home? Why are we stopping that to revive the industry and move the stock?
See, the reason is very clear. The Prime Minister wanted to see housing for all, so this actually fits into the bill of housing for all, and those people who don't have the houses at all, whether it is at their village or other places, and second home. We had of course asked for that it should be available to all people who buy housing, and even if they are investors, because they would then give it on rental housing. So we are all for the purposes of not only doing it for the first time buyer but for the rest. On the second hand, we have to understand that the net of the money which is required to be invested by the government is now close under this scheme is coming to around 50,000 crores of rupees for this year. With the expansion that is expected, the amount which will be invested will go up to 75,000 crores of rupees for investments in terms of this interest subvention and the benefits that are going to be given under the scheme. It is indicative also that even though it is given only for the first time home buyer, as a policy, the policy is succeeding, and hence it has been expanded because they found that in smaller towns, this benefit was not being taken by the people.
So
what is happening is the modification keeps on happening. The modification will continue to happen, and slowly but surely I'm sure they will say go for the second time home buyer also, because ultimately we want to give rental housing. So it's not ownership housing that we want to grow in India. We want to grow a rental housing.
All right, so let me bring in, sir, I get the point. Let me bring in Mr. Vinay Shah. He's just joined us, MD and CEO of LIC Housing Finance, and get a housing finance company perspective. Mr. Shah, we are basically discussing the kind of knocks the industry has been getting with couple of bonanzas, and of course the MIG scheme being increased to include carpet areas of 200 square meters is the big one. My question to you, sir, is how much will it really get the existing stock moving, or is it really beneficial for new housing stock which is likely to come in from developers who are now going to make a beeline for homes under 60 lakh rupees, sir?
I think it's a good and a big move, and this is going to expand the market also. I'll speak first from the developer point of view also. Much of the inventory that's available fits into this category also, even after the increase, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities and all. And I believe that this step will bring in larger numbers under the ambit of the PMAY scheme. We look upon this as a major step. We had in fact taken this up through NHB with the government also, and I'm happy to say that probably last year when we had made a joint representation, initially for MIG2 it was increased to 150 square meters, and now it has been made to 200 square meters. It's a welcome step.
All right, so then Mr. Shah, I have a second question. The industry, you know, basically also has to look at the fact that interest rates have already started rising, but then there's another offset to it, that under priority sector lending as well, you know, you have slabs which have been increased to 35 lakh and 45 lakh home loans. So couple all of these together and tell us, I mean, should the industry be worried about the interest rate hardening, or that's too tiny to worry and we should just look at the positives?
The priority sector lending rate, the amount increase is again a welcome step. The banks will go in more for that, and probably more of funding will take place because of that. On the interest rate, see, now most of the housing finance company, including us, are basically into the floating rate interest. So number one, as you said, this the hike is not very much. Number two, the customer also gets benefited when the interest rates go down.
Okay.
And it's not a very big hike, so I believe that probably it won't make much of a difference.
And one more question to you, sir, on just the clearance of or acceptance of any applications under MIG CLSS scheme. Is that completely smoothened out? There are no roadblocks left on that front, because the initial 6 months I heard back from developers and housing finance companies that it was not that easy.
It has smoothened. It has smoothened. In fact, the initial issues also from NHB side for release of subsidy were not much. Mainly it depended on what type of data was being sent to them for release of subsidy. It has smoothened, and our company finds absolutely no roadblocks. That for release of subsidy is quite nice.
All right, Anuj, come in here then. You're saying that, look, existing 6 lakh inventory, probably very little part of it will get affected. I have some Magic Bricks data. They actually looked at RBI home loan revision for priority sector and said it's positive for Greater Noida, Ghaziabad, Noida Extension, Kolkata. Probably not for Navi Mumbai, Thane, Mumbai, but even Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad have 20% of their inventory falling under this MIG, and this was before the carpet area was increased. So are you taking a very defensive position?
So two things, Manisha, just the previous point as well I wanted to cover. The 0.25% increase in the interest rates, I don't think so really is going to impact the mind of the buyer. It may sentimentally or emotionally impact it, but really financially it is almost inconsequential. So I would say is that one part, at least I don't think so, is going to bring in any negativity onto that. The government is bringing these schemes not to bring down the unsold inventory of 6 lakh units. The intent of the government is as well.
Okay.
We're not doing it to bail out the unsold inventory, but it is really for the new development and housing for all. Important
point made, Anuj. The government's not looking to bail out the developers and get the 6 lakh unit of stuck inventory moving. Its purpose is larger, to get developers perhaps to launch more affordable housing units. Well, we'll return in a short while to find out how many companies are now going to be standing not only with this unsold inventory in question, but also with big changes in accounting norms which compels real estate companies to book sales only when the project is completed. Now you couple this with changes in the IBC code which makes home buyers financial creditors, and you have a very new picture emerging in real estate of India. Stay tuned. The crux of Urban Reality today is to assess the impact of various policy changes on the housing market of India. The sector now has to get used to two important changes. One, new Indian Accounting Standard 115, which compels realty companies to write back profits from all incomplete projects. And the second one, very important one, amendment to IBC, where home buyers will be treated at par with financial creditors. Amit Bhagat, from a PE perspective, how significant are these two changes, and how much will a shakeout be in this sector? How many will be left standing?
There is no choice actually. You will have to do it, and you will have to restate your accounting starting 1st April, and the impact will be felt by debt equity ratio, which will get slightly impacted, and the lenders will have to understand this change, this transitionary position, and they will have to accommodate with the developers and stand by them in this transition period.
Okay.
So there is no choice.
Okay.
Each one of them who has a net worth of more than 250 crores will have to incorporate this change. Lenders will have to understand, analysts will have to understand, and will have to stand by their customers in this transition period.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Shah, My question to you is that the other side of making home buyers financial creditors is that lenders are now more wary. Are they? That's one argument which has been heard and rotated a lot. But is that really correct, or actually now you get a cleaner understanding of what home buyers can or cannot get?
You know, yeah, the last bit that you said, home buyers are now absolutely clear on, they do get something, number one. Number two, I have one more opinion on this, is that none of the projects which have come after RERA was introduced probably will fall into this category. So this IBC in totality is only for solving all those problems which were there before the implementation of RERA. Of course, RERA full implementation in all states is yet to take place. This is the one part of it. But yes, home buyers are at an advantage. From the lender's point of view, this, I would not say this is an additional concern that we will have to address and see what best we can do about it.
Okay, fair enough. Anuj, you know, we've talked about the fact that industry will see a shakeout and there will be lots of companies which will not be able to survive, which is probably great for cleaning up the market. But now with these changes, do you think there are more likely to fall by the wayside?
Yeah, Manisha, you know, the point that you mentioned on the accounting policies, I really don't know how that is going to get implemented, because, you know, it is quite kamikaze that not only going forward that you will be able to now book the profits until the project is completed. I mean, those developers who are listed, if they're doing residential and do not have a rental income, you know, it is quite a challenging task for them. The second, Amit rightly pointed out that retrospectively you have to write back the profits. I'm saying even going forward, I mean, residential, you know, you take 3, 4, 5 years to complete. It is not going to be now quarter to quarter results. So I don't know how these companies are going to be valued. Maybe they're going to be valued on cash flow basis, because ultimately you're not going to be able to recognize their revenue. Some of the companies who are now going for listing, I don't know how they are going to be valued, because clearly the norm says is that the revenue is not going to be taken into account until the project is completed. I dare say many of these companies who are listed, you know, have got completed projects. They take quarter on quarter as they do sales and based on the project completion. So it will be a very interesting thing to see, although it may be a small subset, because it's only for really listed companies, you know, for the private, unless, as Amit said, on the debt equity ratio, you know, that has an impact. The second is certainly on the home buyers. You know, they're sitting on the credit table now with the financial institutions. They're going to be there if there is a default. You know, they are pari passu with the financial institution. So clearly there is a lot more onerous clauses now being put onto the developers, and if anything, it will have a further shakeout, as you rightly said, is from the existing developers who will perhaps not be able to go through it over the next 18 months.
Mr. Hiranandani, I mean, the changes came in from April, but you know, retrospective is the one which is really bothering the industry. Could it have been done better? Because now it seems like a done event, nothing can change in this.
My view personally was that the completion contract method is really the good way in order to assess profitability of the projects. This part completion business was very good when there is a boom time which is happening. When the recession time takes place, then the part completion contract method sometimes does not show you the balance cost implications and the fact that a so-called profitable projects have turned into losses, and this has happened all over the NCR region and other places also. So I think basically what was seen as many of the companies were trumping up the profits during the construction period, and ultimately when the projects got completed, they were really not able to justify the kind of profits which were already done. It is out of protection of that end, wherein you don't artificially trump off and bring about a greater transparency is where is there. But I take the point which Anuj has talked about very rightly, it is going to create a problem for listed companies, not other companies, because those companies are valued on the stock exchange based on a quarter-to-quarter progress of results, which is not the case otherwise. And those companies will definitely be affected because they will not be able to show all these profits. So it's a listed company problem much more than the whole thing. But I don't think it will be a banking problem, because the banks will understand the changes which have taken place and will be able to understand the changes if necessary in the debt equity ratio, and will have to do it. Already the banks had to make the correction because of RERA, when we impounded 70% of the money for the purposes of construction, and this will be the second time when they will have to look into the fact that the company is not able to show the profits during the construction period in their final P&L accounts. But for the rest of India, barring the listed companies, of course, there is no issue really whatsoever, and I think it's a good practice to show completed contract for those companies.
Okay, interesting to know that there's a positive view on that. Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani, Anuj Puri, Vinay Shah and Amit Bhagat, thank you gentlemen for being with us here on this discussion. Seems like 2018 is another big year of adjustment for India's real estate sector. The churn's on. Let's see who emerges the winner. And of course, the home buyer continues to be the winner here, because prices ain't going anywhere quickly, and you will get a lot more affordable housing stock all across the country, peripheries of big tier 1 cities, and of course a lot more in tier 2 and tier 3. Goodbye from me.
Govt.